So my final project is called the Neon Jungle EP and following singles. So my project. I am teaming up with a fellow friend and classmate by the name of Stuart Betts, and together we're forming the duo called Apollo. Before, he individually produces Toxic, where he made more chilled stuff and future bass. Personally, I was known as DJ Triple T, where I made future house and deep house. So the idea of the duo actually came from a remix that we did together, just for a bit of fun. And we worked really well together. However, because we were two individual artists at the time, we had different ideas that kind of clashed, so we didn't have one set vibe for the remix. However, now we will be fusing together to kind of make a different kind of house, but mainly house orientated. So together we will be producing our first EP, which will mainly be commercial house, and that's going to be released onto professional stores. And the way we're going about the debut EP like this is because we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into like a very small fan base. We want to be broad, and then that will give us the free flow later on to kind of develop our sound and find what really works with ourselves as well as the fan base. After producing the EP, we're going to produce some following singles as well. But that being said, we will focus on the feedback we had from the EP. So in theory, that will make the tracks as successful as possible based off of our growing fan base and what they like. We will also be showcasing our EP at our first show that we're putting on at college. So we will be having live PA performances from our vocalists that we will work with. And before and after the EP set, we will be DJing as well, so that'll be fun to kind of prepare and showcase what we can do at the decks as well. So for our research, I'll be undergoing primary and secondary research. For my primary research, I will be exploring the best way to process vocals for house music. So this will be both mine and Stuart's first time working with vocalists. So to even have a fighting chance comparing ourselves to professionally produced tracks, we will need to know the best way and how we can process the vocals and where they need to be sitting in the mix. So I'm going to explore loads of different plugins that I can use to get the best way to process the vocals based off of our genre. So with regards to my secondary research, I'm planning to research what kind of gear I need to be investing in so that we can improve our live performances. And having good live performances is so important because we don't want to be that duo who just stands behind the decks and lets vocalists perform. So looking at artists like Disclosure and Gorgon City, they kind of break down their tracks and literally perform them live. So if they're not playing a part of their setup, there won't be anything played. So that's the stage that we're looking to progress to, which by no means we will be ready for in the near future. But this will be a good opportunity to kind of see what we need to be gearing up for. So we're planning on kind of splitting our sides. So I'll have my equipment and Stuart will have his. So I'll just be researching into the equipment that will be on my side. So I could potentially look into the Push 2, which I already know integrates really well with Ableton, which can be used for both production and the live performances. So that will definitely be a good piece of equipment to have. I could potentially also look into drum machines, such as the SPD, as I know many people have used this professionally or recreationally and never had any issues with it. So I'm keen to kind of look into what that hardware has to offer. And also potentially some keyboards, whether they be a standard keyboard sounds or MIDI keyboards, or even your analog bass synths, which I know will be more expensive, such as the Mini Moog or the Juno 60. In terms of performing, me and Stuart have spoken about who wants to be performing what part of the track. So we've come to the conclusion that Stuart will do the bulk of the chord progressions and your melodies and stuff like that, and I'll be playing either the bass lines or the drums through the drum machine potentially. So during my research I'll need to use a variation of different sources. So I don't want to be using out-of-date books or reviews online. I need to be finding stuff that's current, reviews through YouTube, because I know many people do unboxing videos, so that might be potentially a good route to explore. And without a doubt I can look at just your standard reliable websites. But anything I find I will reference through Harvard referencing. So practical skills. While producing the EP and the following singles, I know there's going to be many different techniques that I'll need to achieve. And these will be recording and processing vocalists, which I should be able to achieve to a high standard after my primary research. However, to record the vocalists, I'll need to organise the recording sessions. Hopefully these people can be reliable. However, I've had problems working with people in the past, so I'm not counting on them being smooth all the time. I could potentially take part in songwriting as well, which will be interesting because when I was younger I used to write some poems. However, that's been a while ago now, so it might be interesting to see what I can write lyrically with the vocalist. And then I'll need to compose melodies, chord progressions, develop a interesting but organised structure as well throughout the tracks. And we will have to pay close attention to not creating the same thing over and over again. We need to vary our style just to keep each track interesting. I will need to focus on my EQ and compression. So my EQ, I'll need to focus on the master EQ, as well as when producing my bass lines, because I will plan to layer the sounds a bit. So I need to make sure there's no frequency clashing, be it between the layers of the bass or the layers of the kick, or the bass and the kick, because they're all in that low end, below 150 Hertz range. So there's a high possibility that they'll be clashing there. And then with regards to compression, most channels in my songs will probably include compression, just so we can reduce the dynamic range slightly, which will give a more consistent signal, in turn boosting the volume and making things more consistent. Sometimes throughout the tracks we may not want everything to stay constant all the time, so a nice skill to master will be automation, whether that be parameters across plugins such as cutoffs and LFOs, or even the amount of reverb and delay present at a certain point in the track. Because we're uploading our tracks to professional stores, we will need to focus on our mixing and mastering, because they will need to be at the highest standard we can possibly do. For the show, we will need to be rigging lighting, or even working with drama tech to give us a hand and kind of show us the way. Personally, I already know how to DMX, as well as use safety pins to make sure the lights are hung at the safest way possible. So I'll be able to offer a helping hand there. We're going to need to be able to promote as well, be it for the show, so to get ticket sales, or even the EP itself and the singles. So we're going to need to kind of develop the most interesting way we can grab people's attention and make them want to invest in what we're offering. And then lastly, for the live show, we will need to prepare and perform a DJ set. So problem solving. Hopefully we don't run into too many problems, but there are a couple that we could potentially face. So like I said before, we could pigeonhole ourselves into producing similar tracks across the whole EP. So I know when I produced the DJ Triple T, I found a structure, or I found a sound that worked really well, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to use that for the next 3 tracks I make. So we need to be aware of this and try and make the EP have as much variety as possible. And one way we can do this is by working with different vocalists who offers different tonalities and vibes, so that way when we produce the instrumentation to their singing, it will be different. Another problem we may have is relying on vocalists to either songwrite, so make the lyrics and the chord progression, or even turn up to the sessions. So I know some people's commitments at college can be questionable, so we hope that the people we work with are able to commit and produce work to a high enough standard that we're hoping for. Should we have the opportunity to release any remixes as like the following singles, we could potentially face BPM change issues. So in the past I've had numerous problems where I could never fully change the BPM easily, or it had to be a really long-winded way, or I couldn't find an acapella that was good enough. So there's a couple issues we could potentially face with that. And then sales. So it's not the end of the world if we don't make $1 million on our first EP, but we will need to, hopefully we've invested in some gear, so we'll need to kind of break even with that, hopefully, as well as in terms of the show. So hopefully we can sell enough tickets for the show to even go on. So evaluation. I will be undertaking weekly blogs that will clearly reflect against my aims for the week. So this won't just be loads of writing. My aim is to have it multimedia. So for example, I could use screen recordings, screenshots of projects, social media and stats, potentially even vlog, as well as audio files. So doing this weekly will allow me to reflect upon my daily aims and see how I'm achieving and keeping on top of things. This will also allow me to avoid plateauing. Like I said before with DJ Triple T, before I would find something that worked and run with that. So I need to keep things fresh to keep myself interested as well as the audience. And we can also look at feedback from the live show as well as after the EP release. So I DJ professionally at weddings and stuff all the time, so I know when a track's working, when a track isn't working, and stuff like that, as many people can. So while we're performing our EP, I'll be taking close note at the audience and seeing what parts of the songs are working, what parts aren't, and so on. And then hopefully when we release the EP, we'll have feedback from friends, be it through conversation or text and stuff. But regardless, either way, I'll plan on including that in my evaluation as well, so we can see the general public's view on the EP. So presentation. As I mentioned before, we will be releasing it onto professional stores such as iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Deezer, etc. And luckily we've been given the opportunity to put on a live show, which will allow us to showcase the EP and DJ set, which will give us loads of opportunity to look at the crowd, get feedback and hopefully some messages after, which will be nice. Knowing we have this project ahead of us, we have invested in Photoshop, so this will allow us to create personalized album covers to reflect the vibe of the music, us as an artist, potentially even logos and posters, which would be great for promotion. We also plan on doing promotion videos, which will be uploaded directly to social media, so that'll be Twitter and Facebook, and hopefully doing this, it will be a visual representation of our music, so hopefully the videos can reflect the lyrics and the meaning behind the songs, which will be relevant. But not only will people have a preview of the music, but they'll also have something to watch, which I know is so valuable to keep people entertained, because they can just keep scrolling if they get bored, so we don't want to have that on our music. We could also use smart URLs, so this will kind of get rid of all of the rubbish and extra numbers and letters in the links that we don't need, that will just be wasting characters and taking up space. So with Smart URL, we'll be able to copy and paste the URL directly into the software and website, and then that will convert it into a smart URL that we can personalize. So this will keep us organized and it's going to look a lot better. And a great feature of smart URLs is you can analyze how many times each link has been clicked, so we can kind of see how many people have been interested and gone, oh yeah, I want to check that out. So yeah, it's going to be a good project, and I look forward to seeing what comes from it.